Hey y'all, I got an anime channel called MysticSage, where I do anime top 10s, speculations, and more. You can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch to keep up to date with me, the channel, and even for some entertainment. Links will be in the description below. Thanks guys, enjoy the video. Today, we have literal dozens of legendary Pokemon. It's getting to the point where the word legendary almost doesn't feel fitting anymore. But back in the day, there were only a few Pokemon which deserved that title. The legendary birds and Mewtwo. These Pokemon were big and powerful. We got one chance at catching them because there was effectively only one of each that existed in the entire region. And yeah, we have other Pokemon that were sort of like them because you only had access to one in the first generation. Eevee, your starters, and the fossils. However, unlike these Pokemon, the legendary birds and Mewtwo weren't just given to you. They needed to be earned and caught yourself, and because of this, they will always be looked at as special to so many fans. And that is exactly why I was so excited to see that we would be getting Galarian legendary birds. So in honor of that, today, I'm going to be explaining all the legendary birds in depth. If you guys love the legendary birds and are hyped for this video, be sure to drop a like, and if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing for more Pokemon content. With all that being said, let's kick off with Articuno. Articuno is an ice legendary flying Pokemon that was originally found in the Seafoam Islands. While Articuno's stats are pretty okay all around, its real power is in its defense, which would be great if it wasn't weak to common things like rock, steel, fire, and electric types. That being said, when I think of ice Pokemon, Articuno has to be one of the first ones to come to mind. It's kind of iconic in a way, and I think a big part of that comes from its design. It's probably the cleanest and smoothest visually of all the birds. It looks straight up majestic with its frozen crown and tuft of fur on its chest. I gotta say, of all the original 3 birds, this one has to be my favorite design. I mean, just look at this design in the Magical Pokemon Journey manga. The thing is gorgeous, and I swear that all this praise isn't just because it is the logo for Team Mystic, which was obviously named after me. But even more than its design, I love this Pokemon's lore. The Pokedex originally talked about how it doomed people lost in icy mountains, while later entries explain how it can control ice and chill the moisture in the air to make it snow just by flying. Plus, the concept for Articuno comes from the Simurgh, which is Persian myth. It's a super interesting Pokemon all around, and I absolutely love it. So what are they doing to convert it to a Galarian Pokemon? Well, Galarian Articuno somehow looks even cooler. Its new design is sleek and almost haunting. While we don't have the types revealed just yet, if I had to guess, I would say that it is going to be a ghost flying or ghost ice Pokemon. The light purple tail and chilling color scheme all work together in such a cool way. Things like Kokaitis being the frozen lake on the 9th layer of hell kind of fit this pretty perfectly. And on that note, I think we definitely have the perfect nickname for this Pokemon. I think the Pokemon could really shine a bit if it was given a unique ability. We don't really have an ability like this, but I'm thinking Poison Point, but with freezing. We could call it Flash Freeze, and when an opponent's Pokemon makes contact with Galarian Articuno, there would be a 25% chance that that Pokemon will be frozen. It's a bit of a percentage drop from Poison Point, bringing it from about 1 in 3 to 1 in 4. But I think Freeze is a more serious status, so that is pretty fair in my eyes, maybe even making it 20% if needed. In this image, we get wings that look almost wispy, while here we still see shards of ice being flung from the Pokemon. If I had to choose its stats, I'd be hoping it has higher special attack and speed with lower defense and stats. It just looks more fragile, but also like it could destroy anything in front of it. I'm not sure if I'll be right, but gosh, it's a pretty great design. Next up we have Zapdos. Of all the legendary birds, this was probably the most viable to actually use. Solid defensive stats with great speed and a monstrous special attack stat. Plus its typing basically makes it so you get all the benefits of an electric type without the ground weakness. Zapdos is only weak to rock and ice and has a bunch of resistances. It's just super strong all around, but in exchange for the great stats, its design is hella hit or miss. People seem to either love it or despise it. It almost looks like how a 5-year-old kid might draw a bird with their offhand. The only thing that has any actual detail is the gross little chicken legs. I do really like the black wings behind the normal ones, but overall Zapdos is kinda ugly unfortunately. I still do love the Pokemon though. In terms of lore, Zapdos is said to turn the sky dark and shower lightning down wherever it goes. And as far as its concept origins, it is probably based on the Native American myth of the Thunderbird, which is a spirit of lightning and rain that takes the form of a bird. Pretty freaking sweet. Also, before we get into the Galarian form, I just wanted to point out that its name in French is Electhor. Electhor. How cool is that? Okay, but back to the Galarian form. And I mean, any Final Fantasy fan will tell you that this is just a straight up chocobo. Zapdos goes from soaring in the air to a Pokemon that looks like it'll run you down. From chicken legs to leg day, it looks buff as heck, and the darker color along with the more detailed layering for its design all just work so dang well. As far as typing, if I had to guess, I think it would be electric fighting, or maybe even fighting flying. I don't think it'll be able to fly in this form, but it might keep this typing in the same way Dodrio has the typing, you know? And kind of along those lines, I'd like Galarian Zapdos to have super high speed and attack while having decent defenses all around. Not crazy high defenses, just like passable. If Galarian Articuno is a special sweeper, Galarian Zapdos should be a physical one. I like to see attacks like Wild Charge, Extreme Speed, Close Combat, and maybe even its own unique move that would be similar to Volt Tackle. It might be a pretty linear Pokemon in terms of battles, but if it is as strong as it looks, it's going to absolutely be a force to be reckoned with. I've been thinking about a unique ability this thing could have as well, and I think if they doubled down on the Chocobo reference, it could be something cool. Chocobo have been known to be in races and just generally be hecka fast, so maybe when this Pokemon used a priority move like Extreme Speed or Quick Attack, it could get a boost to its attack. That or priority moves could just get a buff in the same way abilities like Pixelite boosts fairy moves. Either way, I definitely love the new design. Finally, let's talk about Moltres. Of all the legendary birds, this is probably the one I've used least, and that's probably because of a lot of things. The biggest of which is its typing. Fire Flying is a rough type to have in general, especially when it's just a worse Charizard with less options. And on top of just being a lackluster Charizard, you gotta admit that this is the ugliest thing in the sky. It looks like someone set a rubber chicken on fire. So much about this Pokemon just falls so far flat of what it should be, especially for the last of the birds that we had access to that you find on the very last area of the game before you reach Elite Four, but at least the lore is pretty solid. Moltres has the ability to control fire, and when it's injured, it dives into molten magma instead of volcano to burn and heal itself, which is pretty fitting when you consider that its design is based on the phoenix, a mythical bird which burns up when it dies and rises from its own ashes. Lastly, I wanted to take a look at the foreign names after seeing how cool Zapdos' was, and we found some pretty cool stuff. Sulfura in French and Lavados in German. How did we get settled with just Moltres? And now for the hype. When it comes to the Galarian Moltres, they took this ugly rubber chicken and made it into a sharp and sleek black bird of prey with demonic looking flames spouting from its wings, tail, and head. Everything about this Pokemon looks hundreds of times better than the original. I hope this Pokemon is more bulky with possibly a dark fire typing. I want this thing to be able to take a hit, but I definitely still want it to be able to hit back. It gives off the same kind of feelings as Yveltal, but a little weaker and scarier. This Pokemon has a lot of potential to become really popular on design alone, but if it gets access to some moves like Defog or Tailwind, it might just become a top tier support Pokemon. It definitely has the bulky looking body to fit the bill. However, what I'd really like to see most in this Pokemon would be a unique ability, preferably something to do with the Phoenix inspiration. Maybe it could be healed from being burned or when hit by a fire type attack. I know Flash Fire can nullify fire, but an absorption ability similar to Water Absorb and Volt Absorb is long overdue. If they wanted to make it super powerful, they could also give it an ability that played along the Rise from the Dead theme. Maybe when this Pokemon's HP dropped to 0, it could recover a small amount of health, 25% possibly, or something similar to a Stronger Sturdy, where no matter what, if this Pokemon has more than a quarter of its health, it will live at 1 HP. My final idea for this Pokemon would come in the form of another Final Fantasy reference, a Phoenix Down. When Galarian Moltres gets taken out, the next Pokemon you swap in would recover half of its health, almost like Wish, but those are just some ideas that I'm spitballing here. I'm noticing a trend with all three of these new Galarian forms looking almost like the dark or evil versions of their base forms. They are all definitely better than the originals, but I hope there is some kind of in-game event that explains why they have this more twisted concept. The original legendary birds were all kind of retconned to be subjects to Lugia, so maybe these could be the underlings to some new legendary Pokemon who is posing a threat. And lastly, it wouldn't be a legendary bird video if we didn't talk about the ultimate Pokemon. The most powerful Pokemon and the best designed Pokemon ever, Zapdos. You know, that mismatch of all three birds from the manga? Okay, yeah, it's ugly and shouldn't be in any game, but I still think it's cool that it exists. But that wraps it up. All three legendary birds, the Galarian counterparts, and even some weird fusion bird. These new forms feel more legendary than their previous forms to me. They just have more of a visual punch to them, and they all kind of have that weight that Mewtwo has where it demands your attention. Like Moltres is fine, but if these two showed up and you had to beg one for your life, you're gonna slide it with the Galarian form every time. If you enjoyed the video, why not leave a like and subscribe to my channel with notifications on, that way you never miss an upload. If you want to support me even further, consider following my Twitch where I stream a lot of Pokemon content and Nintendo content like shiny hunting, showdown battles, Pokemon Nuzlocke, Zelda, Fire Emblem, and much more. I've also been reviewing every episode of My Hero Academia Season 4 over on MysticSage, so head over there if you're into that too. Want to support me further and gain cool perks? Check out my Patreon. Daniel Leone, Lady Crimson, Memory Martin, The Lazy Leo, Matthew Young, Awesome Lego, Jarrett Wiz Austin, Sudden Grader, Nigma97, and DDD did, and I want to thank them personally for going above and beyond. It means the world to me. I think I'm gonna wrap this up though. I'm Mystic Umbreon, and I will see you in the future for more awesome Pokemon content.